Mhm.
Good afternoon. We're calling to order the Housing and Human Welfare Committee meeting. The time is now 6:41 p.m. Um, I'll start with the first item on the agenda, our roll call. Alderman Shandelmeyer,
Present.
Alderwoman Tierney,
Here.
and Alderman Gay is here. Next item on the agenda is approval on the agenda. Is there? Oh, thank you.
Second.
All in favor of approving the Housing and Human Welfare minutes on 5/29/24?
Aye.
Moved.
Aye.
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is legislation before the committee. Starting with R1924, the East Board Truist Neighborhood Initiative Transformation. We postponed this legislation. Kaylin, can you tell me actually if at the last meeting on the 29th, we did make a recommendation of amendment, correct?
I was assuming that that amendment was in the one that Rob did,
Okay.
that he presented at the joint meeting, correct? Or
I
was that?
And that's what I was just looking at. And so if everybody's on the same page, the legislation was sent to three committees. We all had interest and we all had amendments. So we postponed so that Rules and Environmental Matters could have a joint committee meeting. They made amendments and recommendations in that committee, joint committee meeting, and they're giving them back to us today.
Mhm.
Kaylin sent us a Google invite with the amendments on it. I'm not sure if you all have that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I
And
don't
we were at Brooks. Well, I was at that meeting. They were like two meetings back to back. It was right.
Correct. I was present for uh Alderman Savage's Alderman Savage's amendment, and then for Rules Amendment 1.
Yeah. Can we comment on the amendment real quick or?
Of course, of
Yeah.
course. So what I'll do is because I'm having trouble finding our amendment that we recommended. So I'll turn the floor over to you, Ellie, so that you can
Oh,
make comments, and then Alderman Shandelmeyer, if you want to make comments, and in the meantime, I'll be looking for our amendment.
yeah. Kayla might be able to help me with this. I didn't know how. I thought the committee, I was just an observer, but I thought the committee didn't agree with um, having it an option for city offices. Was that just for back?
My
in-
recollection was to keep it vague and say mixed use, with city offices potentially being a use later on. But we wanted to keep it as flexible as possible.
You're right. So did we want to mention the city offices as in there? I don't know. I
I
mean,
will, I believe we should not mention anything specifically beyond saying mixed use.
I agree with
Uh,
you. Yeah.
For the first one or number two?
Amendment 2,
Oh, sorry.
If I'm not mistaken, didn't you guys add that to number two during the
there was a
rule?
lot of things.
Yeah.
Um,
I gotta find it now.
Yeah.
It was in Rob's amendment. Right, that was specifically Rob's suggestion. So that would be
Yes.
one.
I don't see our amendment, but I don't think generally and I just checked back in the note and I actually don't see that the city of Announcement with other interests plan to improve the city program with the goals. I think the concerns that I had were the actual land transfer, and you know what that would mean, and I'm not sure. Did Melissa address that as well
No, we didn't get into that level of detail. Did we, Brooks?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
in regards to the actual land transfer, and the city essentially, I'm assuming leasing it to HACA.
My understanding is we are not putting anything like that in the finances or in the official resolution, but that is what the current administration is suggesting as something we could do. I think there are pros and cons to ground rents and leasing it out this way, but the resolution itself does not really get into that, and there is no amendments that get into that specifically.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, oh, I'm sorry, I'm speaking out of turn here,
No,
but
please go ahead.
yeah, we had discussion about other issues in the law office. Michael Lass was there, and it was reiterated that this resolution, because there was concern about our liability in this and any sort of legal connotation, it was sort of said that this was a statement of will, and that details such as that would be definitely down the road. You know, ultimately there'll be some other document, but this is really just a statement of support and not getting into anything legal because doesn't hold quote unquote legal weight in that
It,
sense.
is Ms. Maddox Evans on by any chance? Okay. Um, I um I would like to include in this, and then I'd be ready to go to move on with it. Um, because there are several now, therefore be it resolved by the city of Annapolis. I'm looking at and so what we would need and and be it further resolved. So here it is as it is or as it will be amended with amendments 4. It says on page 3, strikes lines 1 through 3, replace with, now therefore be it resolved by the Annapolis City Council that we support the Eastport Choice Neighborhood Initiative Transformation Plan and support the use of the former public works property on Spa Road to meet the goals of the plan or other suitable property. And then it goes further, and be it further resolved by the Annapolis City Council that a portion of the public works property be utilized for an expansion of city offices, and be it further resolved by the Annapolis City Council that prior to any final approval of development plan, that all city, state, and federal environmental laws be complied with. And so I have 2 amendments actually, because that last one that well, let's discuss it before I propose an amendment.
Sounds like it sounds like kind of like a mixed bag. I mean, the background to that was Ross suggested at the meeting, hey, you know, what if this doesn't work out? This whole remediation thing has me worried. I'm not using his exact words, but he was worried about the remediation, and he said, I think we shouldn't limit ourselves to just Spa Road. And that was countered by, well, we don't necessarily have to do that if we address the remediation. So it looks like and then Michael Laws chimed in and he said, you don't even, as long as you say you're abiding by MDE requirements. So I think that one's cool. We will abide by MDE. But Ross definitely the committee definitely wanted to leave it open-ended to have the option of looking at another site. So that's in there too. But I'm still stuck on the expansion of city offices. I think we should strike that. Maybe Brooks.
So I actually like the idea of including city offices in this space
Yeah.
because it expands community and
Sure.
creates opportunity in what is now just a dump. And so
Yeah.
and I think it also creates the opportunity for economic viability at some point in this area. If you have office spaces there, you have people walking, biking. I know Brooks will like that. And,
You
and
might
you
want,
need you
they
need
might want food
business.
trucks.
Yeah, you need
No, I'm
business for
serious.
them to go to. Yeah, and there's a park nearby. All of those things are in play.
Yeah,
Now the thing is, I'm not sure if you've all seen what happened in DC recently. The mayor there, obviously at a much more expensive, on a much more expensive level, they took vacant office space and transformed it to
yeah.
apartments for rent, and they're starting at like 2,200, and so let's be mindful of the spaces that we construct.
Yeah.
Understanding that the world is also moving in a space where people may not have offices. And so I think we take all of those things into consideration.
Yeah, as long as it has the language such as, so it's not limiting it just to the city offices. I mean, as long as we're okay with the language, the way it reads. I know
If
Brooks,
you would like to, oh, I'm sorry, Alderman Schneidermeyer.
yeah, Brooks.
Um, I agree with Alderman Tierney, such as, look, I think flexibility is key here. As we get more into the design portions, we can get into the specifics. I'm not saying advocating for city offices is a bad thing. We do have a shortage of office space, but for this purposes, we're using it as a signal to the powers that be that we stand by this project. So I think as flexible as possible is where we should
Are you making a motion there, or?
go. Nope, just sharing my thoughts on it. But I guess I can make it a motion.
Only if you and Ellie wish to amend that language. Is that what you want?
Yeah, just to keep it open for any multi-use office, just to keep it open-ended. I think I agree with Brooks. I just don't know how to word it.
Are you amending the amendment that we already have, number 2?
So actually, what you would do to save confusion when we get to the floor, just create a whole new amendment.
And can you repeat that again for me?
Thank you, Kayla.
Can you repeat the amendment again?
So it's the Savage Amendment, but let me find the specific. Page 3, line 5, and be it further resolved by the Annapolis City Council that a portion of the Public Works property be utilized for an expansion of city offices. I guess we would change that to, and be it further resolved by the Annapolis City Council that a portion of the Public Works property be utilized for mixed use opportunities such as expansion of city offices.
Cool. That
So
works.
move.
Second.
Any
That way we
discussion?
keep city office in there.
Yep.
And look, when we get to the floor, we can have the debate with our colleagues. I do understand the need for the need for a city office
Yeah, but you say such as, so that's cool. Yeah,
the grants such as is like I just want to keep it as vague as possible.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Okay?
Aye.
So I would actually like to propose an amendment in line with what we had. This will be a new amendment as well. In line with what we discussed at our meeting on 5/29/24. Be it further resolved by the Annapolis City Council, we encourage the housing authority of the city of Annapolis to explore new property management relationships. And so this would, help us with some of the issues that we've been having where there's a monopoly on our housing complexes as it relates to property management. And we just aren't satisfied. And so if we go into a relationship with them, and this was a part of my fear of, the ground lease and all of that, if we, they develop this as a part of the Choice Neighborhood Initiative, and, we're in an exclusive relationship with them and the property management is abysmal, that is going to impact the city. And so I think there needs to be, a clear expectation, that they'll just either set very strict requirements and guidelines for property management and follow through with it, or acknowledge that they need to start new relationships.
Yeah,
And
I like the
so,
idea there. Yeah. I should raise my hand.
no, please, Alderwoman Tierney.
Yeah, well, a couple of things, and yeah, we kind of want to keep it separate, and I like the word new. And maybe I should tell you what, I talked to Kate Pettit like an hour ago, and just, on this whole financial structure of the existing HACA properties, I think Dwan knows this, is that we'll be giving them some money, but we will be handling it and then dispersing it. And it's sort of that model. And then for a year to see how it goes, and to sort of, help them and maybe get this financial framework going. And that's a whole different thing. We all want that to work. But I don't want, I agree with what you're saying. I think we want to ensure a new, whatever you said. Yeah, I don't want to get it mixed up in any sort of difficulties that might happen, or, we're
And-
really
and-
trying to make it work.
And in my language, and this is,
Yeah,
vague, if once the law gets this amendment from Kalen and, if they see fit to amend it, I am totally fine with that. Because I put to explore new property management relationships.
yeah.
I am sure there is a title or description that I'm missing as it relates to that relationship. So, Alderman Shandemeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My fear on this amendment is it could imply lack of commitment, and that could endanger how the feds see our
Oh, yeah.
commitment to the project. I may be being paranoid, but just because I'm paranoid doesn't mean people aren't out to get me. And I just don't want to put forward any language that could make them think we're vacillating. So I understand the goal. I'm not saying I disagree with the goal, but I just would not feel good about putting this language into the resolution.
Alderwoman Tierney.
Yeah, I forgot about that part. The big unknown, and Melissa was in the room when we talked about this, is what does HACA want this thing to read, and to Brooks's point, you want to sell did I say HACA or HUD? HUD. What does HACA want to see in this letter? And we didn't really get a good answer, but it was definitely, say less is more, right, Brooks? Is that, yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Basically, the clearer that we make our intention, we are all in on this project, the better off we will be in our pursuit of this opportunity.
yeah.
Okay, so we have an amendment on the floor that has not been seconded. So I can, freely change the language of this. And so what if I say, and be it further resolved by the Annapolis City Council we encourage HACA to commit to enhancing the framework of existing tenant quality of life guidelines and strengthening their relationship with management partners.
I don't
You
know.
say that again, Mr. Chairman? I just kind of want to process the language in my head again.
Of course, no problem. I have, we encourage HACA to commit to enhancing the framework of existing tenant quality of life guidelines and strengthening their relationship with management partners. So essentially saying that whatever the rules are as it relates to quality of life, they reaffirm their commitment to that, which is, there's nothing wrong in that, and strengthen their relationship with existing partners. So we're not alienating anyone, but we are, asking for a better working relationship with those, with anyone that would be involved in management in the future of this.
How about instead of I apologize,
No, please.
Sure.
Oh, hold on 1 second, because, well, yeah, go ahead. Well, because you're making a comment on this, and then I'll come to you, Ellie.
Oh, no problem.
How about instead of we will encourage, we say we will support HACA, because that is another word showcasing the city's commitment to this property. I think the phrasing can still accomplish what you're trying to go for. Are you amendable to that?
I am, and so it would read, be it further resolved by the Annapolis City Council, we will support the Housing Authority in the city of Annapolis in their effort, I'll have to change the verbiage. We'll support HACA in their efforts to enhance the frame. Oh, no. We will support HACA in their commitment to enhancing the framework of existing tenant quality of life guidelines and strengthening their relationship with management partners. Does that sound well?
Love it.
I wish Sheila was here as an English teacher when I need her.
Yeah, well, that might come, maybe that will happen at the council. I don't know, but it's more positive. So I agree with Brooks. Yeah, it's like we look
As someone who
forward to it.
tanked his LSAT exam, I think this shows strong legal.
If
Oh,
you need,
She missed you. Oh, yeah, that's right. You missed her at McGarvey's, right? Thank God.
if you need, hold on 1 second. So I got an amendment on the floor. Can I get a second?
I will
Second.
second.
Oh, yeah.
All right. And so, Caitlin, I can send you the language after if you need, or do you want me to reread it right now?
All positive.
I rather you guys put put it on the sheet that we have so that it's correct.
The Google Doc?
Yes. And that way I can, give it to Cynthia and put it in my minutes.
Okay. So I'll do that.
Correct language.
I'll do that afterwards. I got amendment that was there was a motion, a second discussion. Ellie, or do you have further
Nope, I'm
discussion on
lowering
this?
it. I'm good. Yeah,
Okay.
it's more positive and yeah.
Awesome. All in favor?
I
Aye. Thank you so much. Do we have any other concerns about the amendments that are proposed? Or do we have any new amendments from this committee? So next steps, this is recommended favorably with amendments to the full council. Does it have to go for a public hearing? Or is it just going straight to the body to be
it's a
passed?
resolution, so it doesn't.
yeah.
Oh, nope. Okay. Yeah.
Yay.
All right. So can somebody make a motion to recommend this favorably?
Point of order, Mr. Chair, do we want to take positions on Amendment 1 from Rules and Amendment 2 from Alderman Savage before we vote on the legislation as a whole?
What
What is our amendment count then? Are we doing 3, 4?
You guys just did 2. And at Rules and Environmental Matters, There was 2. The joint meeting, you guys did 2. So now we're up to 4.
Okay.
But did Dwan, was your intent to amend an amendment or have it separate?
No, I added a
Okay.
separate amendment, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Since
All
I
right.
don't believe we have the authority to amend an amendment for some reason.
Yeah, right, it's already done.
When you want to vote on amendments 1 and 2, do we need to do that, or do we just recommend it
We don't
favorably?
need to. We can
You
just
don't
not.
Okay, as amended.
Yeah, let's just vote on it as insert
Right.
where cause mixed use development is a priority for the CNI project and the former public works property could not include construction of noose.
In that
Okay.
case, I'd like to move the resolution as amended with a favorable recommendation.
And I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Fantastic.
I think it might
Uh,
go to council next meeting,
It
Right.
does, which will
Yeah.
be next Monday.
right? Yeah,
Next item on the agenda is general discussion. So before we get to general discussion, well, I'll save that for the, I'll discuss our next meeting, for good of the order. All right, next item is ID 12124 Morris Blum Apartments update, and we do have guests that will be joining us for this. And we are so appreciative of your time tonight.
just a question. Is this in response to the last city council meeting?
It is.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Um,
Yeah.
So, Julian, do we have our guests here?
Okay.
Awesome. And thank you all. So what we will do is give an opportunity for our guests to introduce themselves. I will just share a quick jot of what we know, and then it will be helpful if I could turn it over to you all to, hear your side of things, and then we'll just run through for questions. And as I explained, every single time we do this with guests from properties, we're just trying to find the best solution for our constituents, not, have you all badgered on the stand or anything like that. So thank you for your time, and let's get started.
Sure. So I'll jump in. I'm Quinn Geisler. I'm the Director of Development for the Community Builders for the Mid-Atlantic region. So the Community Builders is a nonprofit affordable housing provider whose mission is to build and sustain strong communities where all people can thrive. Since 1964, we've developed 14,000 homes across 15 states and Washington, D.C. And in the Mid-Atlantic specifically, we've developed more than 2,600 homes. So I oversee our work in Maryland, DC, and Philadelphia. And I will turn it to my colleague, Satya.
Hi, everyone. My name is Satya Murthy. I'm the Senior Design and Construction Manager for TCB Mid-Atlantic. I oversee all the design and construction activities in our region. And I will pass it on to Mike Simpson, who's our general contractor for this project.
How you doing? I'm Mike Simpson. I'm the lead superintendent with Harkin Builders at the Morris Blum project. Nice to meet everybody.
And we can pass it on to Vicky.
Sorry, I'm sort of not part of this one in some sense.
No, I meant Vicky
there's
Beal.
another Vicky.
My apologies.
Thank you.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Vicky Beal. I am the property manager for Morris Blum. And I have been here for a 2-year period. And I hailed from Prince George's County Housing Authority. And I worked there for almost 20 years.
And then Mia from the Community Builders is also on the line.
Hi, my name is Samia Harvey. I am the district manager for Maryland, and I've been with TCB now for almost 7 years. Been doing property management for 19.
So not really knowing what you guys were going to ask us today, we brought folks from the development side, the general contractor whose building's undergoing rehab, and our property management team.
That's fantastic. And I think you Yes, Alderwoman.
Is anyone present that was at the city council meeting? I don't,
So,
But you didn't-
because we don't, yeah, there are rules in regards to virtual meetings and inviting
got it.
members of the general public, yeah. And so, we unfortunately aren't in a position to do that. But I think we have an understanding of what we need to discuss. Two things. One, it would be incredibly helpful also if you all would send your names and titles afterwards to Kaylin Jackson, because we need that for the record. And just for the purpose of, yeah, thank you. And so next up, just jumping into why we're here. You all obviously saw the public testimony that we had. I'm not interested in discussing the beginning half of that at all. That's out of the scope of the Housing and Human Welfare Committee. But what we can discuss are concerns as it relates to housing quality and the rehabilitation process. I do have questions from the Alderwoman who could not be present, who represents the district. I'll get into those afterwards. I'll turn it over to the team and allow you all to kind of just share where you are in the progress, kind of what brought you here, and how you think the rehabilitation process is going, and then we'll jump in for questions.
Sure. So the Community Builders was selected by HACA to be a partner in the redevelopment of Morris Blum. So they put out a request for proposals to developers and selected the Community Builders. We then applied with them to Maryland CDA, the Community Development Administration, and to HUD for our financing to renovate and redevelop the property. So all of the work that is ongoing at the site was done in consultation with HACA, the residents, HUD, and the state. So we do have like some questions. I listened to the testimony from last week were around the materials and things like that. So everything that is in our plans and specifications has been approved by all of those different agencies. We have things like the flooring that we use, the warranties have to be for 15 to 20 years long, knowing that you know, these buildings are usually rehabbed like every 20 years or so. So we are investing in the community to make sure that the homes are a pleasant place for folks to live, but also that they're lasting.
Question.
Sure.
I'm a little confused. Harkins Builder, they're reputable, they're here.
Mhm.
You mentioned another contractor. I mean, when you say plans and specifications, whose plans and specifications are those?
Oh, sure. So
Could you give us the contract structure?
Sure.
Yeah.
So Harkins is our general contractor. The plans and specifications are created by Quinn Evans, our architect, and
Oh,
then
wow. Okay.
Harkins is carrying out the contract.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, please feel free to continue.
And then in terms of where we are, so to date, we've renovated the 7th and 8th floors. Those have been completed and turned back over to residents. Currently under construction are the 5th and 6th floors. We anticipate moving folks into those newly renovated units end of August, early September. And then we sort of basically start at the top of the building and work your way down. We are also currently working on the 1st floor, which is where a lot of the community spaces are, the entrance to the building. So we're doing that work through the summer and early fall on the 1st floor. And the construction should complete by June of next year.
Construction for total project by June of next year.
Yes.
5th and 6th floor, end of August.
Correct.
Question.
Yeah.
At the testimony, there was talk about a roof repair.
Sure.
What was that all about?
Yeah. So as a part of the overall scope of work that we're doing, we're repairing the roof. In late January, Harkins Builders, our contractor, were repairing the roof. So they're taking off the old roof, putting down waterproofing and putting on a new roof. I don't know if you guys remember the big storm in January, but that was the one that had like 2 inches of rain dumped in an 8-hour period.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We flooded.
Yeah. So we were caught in between the phases when that storm happened. So Harkins was on site the entire time to clean up the water. They had visits from city officials to check out the damage from the storm, and were cleared to move forward with construction from inspectors from the city. And then basically there was a question about like, what about mold, right? So we did have the large fans that dry things out, but then we also took any drywall that had any moisture on it, tore it out and replaced it before moving forward. And then the full roof replacement has been completed by the general contractor at this time. So the building is sealed. Basically, we just got caught in bad sequencing with the storm.
You mentioned that the 7th and 8th floor were turned over back to residents, both in testimony, not just at the city council meeting, but also in testimony from residents via phone, and also to Alderwoman O'Neill. Several mishaps have occurred with newly renovated 7th and 8th floors, including ceiling floods, air conditioning units not working, and telephone connectivity. What steps are being taken to rectify these issues?
Sure. So working backwards, the telephone connectivity was an issue with getting Verizon to wire to come out. They're a large utility company that we can push and follow up for constantly. But at the time, basically Comcast was wired and accessible for those units if they wanted telephone through that. We offered to help hook residents up with Comcast to help pay for some of those transfer fees. And those residents just wanted to stay with Verizon. We let them know. Verizon has since come and finished their installation on the 7th and 8th floor. So folks who have Verizon telephone have that. Remind me of there were 3 parts to that question.
1 second, while we're on the telephones,
Oh, sure.
Alderman Shandemeyer has a question.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So basically, you had the opportunity to be hooked up at any time. It was just people wanting a specific carrier or people wanting to stay with their old carrier.
Right. So they were choosing a provider. Yeah, there was telephone service available. They just didn't like the one that was the first one to come out to the building. So
there were concerns of air conditioning.
so those air conditioning units, I think, have all been brought to the attention of management, and we've worked with residents on them. So some of it is just it's a new unit and folks understanding how to use it so that it's working. I don't know, and Satya, you can let me know if there was anything other than sort
Sure.
of resident interface with it.
No, absolutely. So as Quinn mentioned, these units are one of the newest system in terms of technologies brought from Italy, and the usage could be problematic for residents who are not exposed to the system. That's one of the things. So since then, like we have had folks go in and educate the residents as to how to use it properly. The other one is, since this unit is new and they're obviously going to have some issues, and I know there was one unit where we had this unit non-functioning, and since then the contractor has gone ahead and replaced the unit on that particular residential unit.
So, question.
Alderwoman Tierney.
So they're in the course of putting in these, I assume they're heat pumps or of some sort. There was never a unit that didn't have any air conditioning mechanism. Was there?
So this one is not a centralized units, unlike many high-rise buildings where you have one big centralized unit and every unit has the connectivity through the duct system. This is an individual unit. Think of like where you go to hotels, like you have like
Oh,
big unit in
okay.
the window, correct? So this is a window unit for each and every individual unit, and that's the system that we have deployed here. That was what back in place, and we went and did with like a high performance unit.
You mean
which
like
is
the
much
ones
better.
like Mitsubishi make, those kind of things? The ones are
This particular,
standalone?
yeah, it's a standalone. This is called as a
Standalone.
Epoca, as I mentioned before. This is an Italian
Yeah.
technology that's pretty new to the market.
Yeah, Dwan, that's kind of nice to have those.
No, absolutely. And it's like whisper quiet, and residents really love it because
Yeah.
they don't hear any noise, and it's very efficient. It puts the heat and cold as needed, if not more than what they were previously used to.
But the resident needs to to know how to operate it?
That is
Exactly.
correct. That's one of the biggest challenges.
Literature. I have that down as a question. And so at the end of this, what I'll do is, ask that in 30 days, certain requests that we make be, accommodated. And one of which will be just simply create some literature on how to use the AC unit.
Absolutely.
And we can just pass that out if it's that simple of an issue. If it comes to be more, if there are issues with the actual operation or further HVAC concerns that we hear through testimony, then I think we can address that further.
Totally understood.
Ceiling floods was the next one.
So I'm not sure, other than the roof issue, I'm not sure about a ceiling flood separate than that. I'm not sure what
So-
they're describing.
Yeah, I actually had a call from the parent or the daughter of an elder that was living in the community, which I also gave her information to the alderwoman. And she was expressing concern her ceiling was leaking. There was I guess moisture coming from the ceiling. I passed that information along. I will get her unit so that you can follow back up with her as well.
That
but-
would be great.
Yeah,
so that-
these were concerns that have definitely been shared by residents.
Okay, yeah, if you could provide the facts, we can be sure that we address it appropriately.
So sorry, another question. What is the process on, where are you now in construction? Where,
Sure. So we're on the 5th and 6th floors.
no, in
Oh.
schedule wise.
So schedule wise, this is like a 4-phase project. And
Yeah,
we completed phase 1, and right now we are turning over phase 2. So pretty much I would say we are close to 50% being done in terms of construction completion.
do you send out anything for progress or, to give residents an update on what's going
So-
on?
We have monthly resident meetings with the residents on site. And we alternate times between different months so that if, the afternoon works better for folks and the evening works better for folks, that they can catch it every other month. But most of our residents are able to attend either.
But there's probably a lot that can attend because of mobility or something. How do you reach them?
Sure. So our property management team does speak with the residents regularly. They provide flyers and updates. Is there any sort of construction related things? They'll door knock, make sure it's on everybody's door. And then we also have a telephone system that automatically dials the phones of the residents so that to give them an update.
Thank you.
When you test for mold, are you meeting the state minimum, or are you trying to make sure that there is no mold within the facility? Because the state obviously allows for there to be, there's a certain, a resident can identify mold in the property. It can be abated, but as long as it's below the state minimum, there's not much that can be done. And so when residents express concern about moisture or mold, how far is that, allegation being taken? And the reason I've asked is because we have had so many issues with new developments that are having to go back and, thousands of dollars are being spent to rehab the unit after it's been rehabbed. And so what's the preventative maintenance on something like that?
So I can answer that one. So anytime we go through these units, let's say, for instance, if we are done with the 5th and 6th floor that we are currently working now, and the contractors get the 4th and 3rd floor, what they do is they go through what's called as an abatement process. So they go through every single unit, making sure all the items that needs to be abated based on the environmental report is being taken care of. And we also have an environmental consultant that's hired by the general contractor who makes sure they go to every single unit, specifically looking for mold and any other abatement items that needs to be taken care of. And they do certify it at the end of the abatement process. And anytime, going back to what Quinn mentioned, anytime if there's a leak or if there's a water related issues, we go back to see it doesn't affect the drywall, because for the most part, where you have mold and mildew is really in the walls. And if there's any moisture at all, that whole drywall is being taken out, dried completely, and then reinstalled with new drywall. So we take mold seriously because we have more than 2,000 units, as Quinn mentioned, in this portfolio alone. And that's a constant problem that we want to avoid at all costs.
So, do you want,
Alderwoman, please.
Chair, so just for clarity, it sounds like you've removed the drywall that you're suspicious of it
Mhm.
being moldy, but have you detected mold? Has mold been detected?
So mold usually emanates like in terms of spores, that's pretty visible.
Right,
And if anytime you see that one, so they're going through abatement process, if they see that there are any issues with the mold based on the previous activities that's taken place, every drywall is completely removed and then go with the new one and also detect for any moisture.
okay.
Just for clarity, if we had a inspector come out for the 7th and the 8th floor, you're 100% well, nobody's 100% positive, and so I wouldn't even put anyone to that. Like 85% positive that there won't be mold on the premises.
I would
That
say
is
to the
correct,
best of our
yes.
knowledge, that is correct.
Yes.
Awesome, thank you. Any other questions from the committee at this point? Give me 1 second just so I can look over this list from the Alderwoman and
You know what, I think sometimes residents talk to the contractors in the field and they get misinformation too. You know how that happens, this sometimes.
Yeah, and we try and encourage our residents to talk to us as much as possible.
Yeah.
Ms. Vicky, who's on the phone, has been at the property for 2 years, so that's before the renovation started, before the community builders was involved as well. Because we can't fix what we don't know about, right? So
Right.
that's Alderwoman O'Neill has been really great about reaching out to us when residents have concerns, and then we can address it, once we're aware.
another question. The front entrance is closed for renovations. What is being done to assist with mobility issues and safety concerns?
Sure. So as I mentioned, currently we're renovating the first floor, which includes the entrance to the building. So folks are currently entering at the rear of the building. There's a second entrance there. For the front door, those that are like where the area where the work is ongoing, those doors are locked. They've been secured with covers placed over them. And then we do currently have 24-hour front desk coverage. So there's someone on the first floor by where people are coming in and out 24 hours a day.
And just to add to that one, the rear entrance that Quinn mentioned is also accessible and it's extremely close to the elevator. So that helps the residents have a smooth ingress and egress.
Are you using Rent Cafe so if a resident has a complaint within the unit, are they submitting it electronically?
Let me follow up with their team. I don't know what we are using.
We do have Rent Cafe, and they can, if they are familiar with putting it in electronically, they can put it in online, and it does go straight to our system.
Would you be able to, is there any way maybe just if we went back to January through now, if we could look at how many tickets have been submitted, and primarily as it relates to HVAC or mold issues?
I can tell you that January, I don't think any, because I don't think we actually rolled out Rent Cafe until March of this year.
Okay, so can we see from March through now?
Mhm.
Awesome, okay.
Mhm.
And is this, sorry, Chair, are you gonna put that in the list of questions? I'm just trying to make sure I keep up that we'll respond to via email to Kaylin. Is that the right way to get you the info?
Yeah, that'll be through Caitlin. And so what I have right now, just so that we're all on the same page, we need to come back with the AC literature and disperse that in some way, shape, or form. we need to have an inspection of 1 or 2 units on the 7th and 8th on a 7th and 8th floor, just to make sure concerns are addressed with the AC and ceiling issues. We need updates on maintenance requests from March through now on Rent Cafe as it relates to mold and HVAC issues. And then we also at some point, and this will just be general, the mold follow-up. I know he mentioned that an abatement team had been out, and so if we could just have the last days that that team or crew went through, that would be extremely helpful. And I'm understanding also that it's a working project. Obviously, the 5th and 6th floor are under progress now, and I hope that's going well. And there are no issues predicted there.
Sure.
Anything else from the committee right now?
I guess, sorry, just a point of clarification. For the inspecting 1 or 2 units on the 7th or 8th floor, will you tell us who is coming out? I don't know that we know the right person to contact, like which inspector that would be.
Yeah, so what I'll do is reach out to our director of planning and zoning,
Okay.
Chris Jakubiak, make him aware, if he's not already aware, of the concerns expressed, and request that an inspection just be done.
Okay.
And I think this is obviously for our benefit, your benefit, and the public. Because if there's a concern, we just kind of want to address it, as I mentioned at the beginning, because it helps us all.
Yeah.
I think we're all good there. I'm
And I-
just looking over the list just to make sure that there isn't anything that we may have missed. Was there someone that had a question or comment?
Well, it's a comment, Samia Harvey. I just wanted to also mention that in my visit there at Morris Blum, I did make it known and give my actual direct phone number to everyone there during the meetings as well, that they can contact me if they are unsatisfied or if they feel like they reported something that's not being addressed. I am the next in charge above the on-site property management. And so I have talked to several residents there throughout my takeover for Morris Blum. So I am available to the residents as well. Even though
So-
I'm not local, but I am
Yeah.
available to them.
So that's really important, but is it clear? I mean, the point of, the communication flow, is that
Yeah.
really clear
Mhm.
to every?
That has been given to the residents.
Okay.
My last 2 questions. One, what is your working relationship with HACA at this point? Outside of, obviously, I know you mentioned that you all worked with one another in coordinating it and requesting both federal and state funds. What is that relationship to this point? And then lastly, if Ms. Beal would mind just sharing information on her general experience at the property. I know she mentioned it, she'd been there 2 years. I think property management it is so critical. I represent a large portion of subsidized housing within the city, and I think we get a bad rep because there are often just breakdowns between property management and the resident. Something just as simple as AC and printing out an AC literature form, and that maybe could have prevented someone coming forward and saying, "Oh, my ceiling's leaking." And again, I don't know what's going on the property. I aldermanic courtesy. I give that to Alderwoman O'Neill, who is, outstanding when it comes to communication with her constituents and following up. And so, if those just 2 questions could be answered, I think if there are none from my colleagues, will be good. Your working relationship with HACA to this point, and then if Ms. Beal could just maybe share just a general background of how she's enjoyed the property, if she's had any personal issues at the property, how we could be helpful to her at the property.
Sure. So I'll quickly jump in with the relationship with HACA. So they are in the ownership and development with us. So They are at resident meetings with us. They are continuing to do things like resident certifications for their income, etc. We meet with them every other week, sort of related to overall development. Then there's a construction meeting every other week that they can attend. And then there's every week we have a meeting about the relocation of residents in the building because they move between floors in the building as construction's ongoing. So yeah, I think I have like 6 meetings with HACA about Morris Blum a month in terms of the different sort of areas where there's conversation ongoing.
Who attends from HACA?
We've got a host of folks. So Director Maddox Evans attends, and then some folks from their compliance department, and then a project manager as well, sort of on the development side.
And I know I said that was my last 2 questions, but you mentioned a very important word, because I see constantly on so many of these properties, and it's part of the reason why we're in the financial mess we are, recertification. It lapses or there are misses. Included in the 30 days, I'm just requesting we have a update on the recertification status. You know, how many residents need to be recertified, where you are in that process, etc. Sorry.
Okay, so we process all of the tax credit. There's sort of 2 different certification processes. One is for tax credits, and then one is sort of for the HUD project-based voucher side. So TCB is doing the tax credit research. HACA is doing the HUD income cert, like research. So if you'll just split your question into 2, we can make sure that we're really clear about what we're answering.
Awesome. I appreciate that. I'll definitely do that.
Okay, and then I'll turn it over to Miss Vicky with her experience.
Can you hear me? I'm having a problem trying to bring my picture up on the screen.
No, you're totally
Okay.
fine. We can hear you well.
Okay, as I stated before, I've been in the business for over 20 years, so I've done quite a bit. Conventional properties, commercial, public housing, where I gained all of my experience and knowledge through Prince George's County Housing Authority. I'm a people's person, so any bad, good, it comes with the territory. I love what I do, and I'm good at what I do. As far as communicating with my residents, I communicate very well with all my residents. And I take the time, the general time, my time, to sit down and listen. That's the first key. You have to be a good listener. You can't please everyone all the time, but the many outweigh the few. That's the way I look at it. But being so, I'm the last person to leave the ship. I'm still at work. And so my job for me, myself, never ends because there's always someone in need. And I'm very compassionate about what I do. And at the end of the day, a normal and a great work week, we never have any work order tickets that need to flow over to the next general week. I'm very careful. I'm compassionate about what I do. So for those who have maybe complained in the past about mold, I'm always on the scene. My eyes see what my maintenance guys sees. And so I've already been trained to identify and to make correction when there is a situation what appears to be mold. Like we're in the summer months, and I know that with a lot of seniors, they don't like air conditioning, but I have convinced them if you turn it up a little bit, we still need that airflow to go through the unit because that will build up what is called water condensation. And after a period of time, if you don't clean it, it'll get dark. And then that's when the fear of mold comes into part. So again, if someone was to communicate that they have mold or water leaks, I'm on the scene immediately and we're taking care of whatever the problem may be. If it's something beyond my control and my ability, then I contact the next person in charge. That would be my district manager and then the project director, operation director, which is Aretha Estep. So there's nothing that I can't conquer Like I said, I'm good what I do. And so I'm not gonna leave a stone unturned. I'm gonna take care of everyone before I leave the community. And I communicate on a daily, I follow up, even when work order tickets are called in at the front desk. That's the second source beside a Rent Cafe or what have you. I address the situation hands-on. I'm very hands-on. So especially when you're working with seniors, you have to be hands-on. My day-to-day, I never get home until I'm not a 9 to 5 person. So by the time I get to Upper Marlboro, it's probably about 8:30, but I don't mind because guess what? I'm doing what I love to do, and I'm gonna take care of the last person that needs my help, regardless as to what. We can go back to March of this year. All of our work order tickets are closed out before the end of the week or midweek. That's how good my guys are here. And we take care of everyone. Treat people the way you want to be treated. That's my motto. And glad to be of service.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Ms. Beal. I see a question from Alderwoman
Yeah.
Tierney.
We don't want to have happen what happened to our new Packer development, the whole condensation issue, and then that brought in moisture, and then in turn, I guess, Dwan, you're absolutely correct. I think the most important item here is to walk through this unit. I don't know how, but have, a lot of hand holding here to make sure every resident knows not only how to operate, but also, as Vicky alluded to know that they need to operate it to keep the condensation minimal, right? I mean, that's super
Yeah.
important. It has created an issue in another property that HACA has because of not knowing how to use these units and the water collect.
Well, and that's the last time we got into the conversation then of what materials are being used. And I know when we had Director Jakubiak and we had the general contractors from that last project, they're like, oh, well, this is just how properties are built nowadays. This is just what happens. And I'm having a hard time believing that. I mean, so people should just live with mold because
No.
that's just how the properties are built now.
Yeah.
What is different? And I get it, they're using top of the line AC and these are mobile units, etc. And I'm placing no blame at all on anybody working on the project or any management. But what is different now and in these new units that within months after development, residents are complaining about these issues. And as much as I want to chalk it up to, user error, I struggle with that sometimes. I really do, because the pattern is so consistent across the city. And so
Well,
if I could just jump in on sort of like what's changing.
please.
So
And you all are the experts, just because we're on the Housing Human Welfare Committee doesn't mean we know everything about housing. And we rely on, all of you to, kind of just, set the record straight for a lot of this. And so this is all very helpful.
Sure. So nationally, as building codes have changed and evolved and increased, and our goal is to have increasingly energy efficient buildings. In order to have an energy efficient building, you have a really tight envelope, right? So there's not a lot of air leakage that's getting out. A lot of these building codes are standards were originally developed on the West Coast. And so the West Coast has much lower humidity than the East Coast, right? So as some of these standards were brought, nationwide, and Maryland is seeing some of this and will continue to see it, quite frankly, with the new building energy performance standards, where each building needs to be at a certain efficiency. So as you seal the building envelope and you make sure that there isn't a lot of air that's leaking out, which makes sense, right? You do, like in the wintertime, you don't want to heat the whole neighborhood, you want to heat your house. Same for the summertime. But basically what we're finding nationwide is that we've made it so airtight that in high humidity months, you're actually trapping the humidity indoors, which is leading to mold growth. The ways that we've worked around it is looking at continuous fan running for exhaust in bathrooms and kitchens, especially like looking at how much are you venting out. We've looked at, making sure that air conditioners are set to a certain degree to strip out some of that humidity, but it is definitely something that we're seeing more. It doesn't matter if it's an affordable or market rate building, we're seeing it more as these energy codes move to be tighter. And at one point, Maryland CDA actually required dehumidifiers to be installed in these units that were very airtight, which then sort of goes against you're trying to save energy, but then you have a machine that needs to run with energy to get the moisture out. And Satya, I'll let you jump in. That's my understanding.
No, you're correct. And also what we're doing in this particular system is that there is a dedicated condensate line that residents don't have access to, that directly dumps it. Like, since all the units are facing towards the exterior wall, we also run a condensate line that's not accessible to the residents. So the air conditioning system does what it's supposed to do. And on top of it, like, we also have exhaust in the bathrooms that might, correct me if I'm wrong, it has some sort of a humidity stat that senses the humidity, and then automatically the fan comes on. So those are a couple of ways where we're trying to mitigate some of the humidity concerns within the unit, thereby mitigating some of the mold issues that you typically see on the older units. And on top of that, once we are replacing all the flooring with what's called a luxury vinyl plank. And this vinyl plank that we're using is also water resistant. It doesn't absorb water, and any water that's collected like stays at the surface, that's easily cleanable too. Unlike some other, like if you're a carpet, it pretty much absorbs some moisture, stays there. And that's also not an issue here.
Thank you so much. And in the follow-up, I'll have questions about this technology that you're telling me that reads the humidity and the automatic exhaust. I think, again, all of those things are so good to know, because we wouldn't know otherwise that, that you are trying to combat some of these efforts with existing technology in the rehabilitation plan. So good to know. Alderman Shandelmeyer?
I was just going to comment on why we're seeing this pop up in our new developments, and it was going to be a much more dumbed down version of what was explained with the building envelopes and the lack of cross ventilation. It is a consequence of trying to push for a more energy efficient flow, and we need to be aware of that.
And obviously this isn't our committee's responsibility, but then mold abatement and mediation levels on a state level, that has to be addressed, because as you know, Alderwoman Henson, Delegate Shanika Henson had put in legislation to try and reset those standards so that the mold testing could be lowered, and so that some of the concerns that our residents face could be addressed. If there is an issue, obviously, with the new development, and everybody is acknowledging that, I don't know how us as local policymakers or our colleagues is in the state, could not address that. And so I look forward to hopefully coming up with something, to help with that. Any other questions on this item? Yeah. Last one goes to Alderwoman Tierney.
Sorry, yeah. The nerd in me here. What about opening? Is it another variable? I don't know if I'm directing this to Quinn, but opening up the windows, doesn't that introduce a problem? They have operable windows, right? Or don't they?
Yes, they do have operable windows. They also have balcony doors, and these are definitely avenues for humidity.
Right, that's what I'm getting at.
Totally understood. Again, like most of it also depends on the human behavior, right? I mean, your air conditioning system can only do so much, but beyond that one, it's extremely tough to think for unforeseen circumstances, really. So yeah, it's again, like, to your point, like, we need to have a conversation with the residents and let them know about, like, the consequences of like opening the window, running the air conditioning at the same time, and also making sure that they understand the issues, the concerns that they actually are bringing to the table and how to mitigate that.
Follow up. Thank you.
So we got the list of, follow-ups. But tonight, if you could, Quinn, get the names and titles over to Kaylin, just so that she can put that in, that has to be in her record tonight.
Yeah, I'll send it as soon as this meeting wraps. I just wanted to have, you have my full attention until then.
Oh, no, yeah, no problem. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You.
And I know I said this would be 10 minutes, but it's just, it really is important because we have this issue a lot, and just trying to build trust and within our residents, and that they can trust city government to go after this issue, but also create transparency within the process. Because if I was to talk to you behind closed doors about all of this, some of the good that you're doing would not be out in the public. And so I hope you all understand the purpose of us calling you here. And if it becomes a habitual thing, then I'll be much more angry, but I
appreciate the opportunity and for you guys to raise these concerns. A lot of them we knew about and had been addressing, but some of them were new to us tonight, like the ceiling leaking. So it's always good for us to get additional information, and we brought the whole team because we take this really seriously. So we wanted you to have answers from all the right folks.
And last but least, can I just make a brief statement? Okay, since I've been here, I think there's only been 2 incidents where I had to jump in as to what appears to be mold. We haven't had any mold in this building since that's how long. Probably when I first came on board with HACA before transitioning over to TCB. No, there's no mold here. And I just did an inspection on the 8th floor, maybe 2 weeks ago, and there was no findings of mold, and everything went smoothly.
Awesome. Thank you. And Vicky, because you are the property manager, I'm sure maybe Chris will be following up with you to coordinate that with the inspection. So
okay, that'll be fine.
Perfect. Yeah, the team will see you soon. Awesome. Thank you all very, very, very much. I appreciate the time. We'll be following up via email, and we'll just go forward from there. And if anything needs to come up for the committee again, that's what we'll do.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Next item on the agenda is good of the order. Any comments for the good? Oh, actually, we need to elect a chair. Because we have not elected a chair.
I moved Dawn be chair until otherwise noted. Was that a second?
Thank you. I will accept this term as chair very seriously in the next few months. And I appreciate y'all. We got one more item. I see Kaylin's hand up.
Never mind. Just keep going. You did the right thing.
Awesome. And so I think that might be it. April or August 1st, Maryland Housing Symposium. Make sure y'all sign up. MML just sent out the email today. And then August the 26th through the 28th, there is a housing symposium in Orlando, Florida. This was have really, really good speakers and talk about innovative techniques on rent, housing development, housing quality. So, try to check those things out. If there's nothing else, somebody make a motion so we can adjourn. Oh. At our next meeting in September, Office of Community Services. The entire meeting will be, I'm sorry, there's noise in the background. The entire meeting will be dedicated to Office of Community Services I had a chance to talk to Aisha briefly, looking forward to catching up with her on some of the grant stuff. They're rocking and rolling. But it's critical that they just be an integral part of our vision moving forward. And so that will be our September meeting. Somebody make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. I'll see you all Thursday.
What is it?
Um,
Thursday.
Electric current and Truxton boat launch.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
We have the report back.
okay. Welcome back, Vicky.
So I'll see y'all on Thursday then. All right, be safe because we're still live. So everybody.
Okay, yeah. You never know what we're gonna say. Bye.
Take care.